Is the stream up and running? I guess it is. All right, good morning, everybody. This is Jack Gleason with Startuptrading.com. It is just past 9 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, September 8th, 2020. Economic news events for this week, really nothing important until tomorrow. We're going to have the Bank of Canada rate statement and the overnight rate at 10 a.m. for the Canadian dollar, and then Thursday, the monetary policy statement out of the Eurozone at 7:45 can most definitely be a market mover, as well as the ECB press conference an hour before the bell. And then Bank of Canada Governor Macklem will be speaking on Thursday. Also, crude oil inventories are moved to Thursday because of the holiday. And those are it for our Red Star news events. I'll just kind of jump into the action here. Obviously, I was gone all of last week for those of you guys who pay attention or were into the room, and so there's a lot of things to go over here. This might be longer than your standard video. I'm going to start off with just the S&P 500. I've titled this video Big Drops, Double Your Stops. Is just a reminder, when we come into these huge moves, the average ranges tend to often expand, and therefore you have to trade a little looser, and I recommend you cut your size, right, just to stay in the game. If you're trading the same size as what you would trade in the futures market when we're looking at like a 25-point ATR, and we're already at 50 points plus for the overnight range, you just need to be aware of cutting your size and just increasing your stops relative to really the movement that we're having. So I'm going to go actually load this up to a different grid. Get the daily time frames on here. These are all daily time frames, so we can start from the top down. With the S&P 500, we are basically retesting what is this previous all-time high breakout, and I want to talk about where we came from and where we can potentially go. Now, the S&P had this extension that goes back to March 31st is the anchor, and that went to what was the high of June 8th. Now, we pulled into our 50% retracement, and we completed our negative 23% profit target, and we came about, 14 points shy of our negative 61. There is the possibility of this same anchor new high coming into play before we really get a pause. Now, that 38% retracement would be all the way down at 32.15, and that lines up with the previous highs of June. It lines up with the beginning of the breakout in July, which is really where this last, if you guys think about this, move that everybody's talking about, that was potentially pushed up by like call buying or whatever it is that people are using as an excuse that the market ran higher, that would be a retest of that area. Now, I also want to just pay attention, and these are just big levels. We're not going to know where the lows are until they really confirm, but one level I always like to pay attention to is just the halfway back from the beginning of the contract. So that September contract that began back at the beginning of June, after we rolled up from June, that low to high is down at 32, 55, 38. So those are two higher time frame levels below, 32 55s, and then immediately below that 32, actually it's not immediately below that, but it's a 32 15 area. So that's just on that daily time frame. Now I'm going to move on to the hourly time frame. We began what was a very aggressive reversal on Thursday. Thursday began a very aggressive reversal last week. Now, our first extension and what I've identified as the anchor is this candle right before really the open. It's a 35.51 quarter to low. Now, this traded in a front run, completed all the way through its negative 23, and then we had a same anchor new low on Friday. That same anchor new low was a 34.49 half. In the overnight session, there was a 2.5 point front run right before the European Open, and we've been basically straight down ever since. Now, that coming off this extension, And when we come off extensions like this aggressive, they're very likely to complete if we start getting through these lows. That is a 32.99.75. So call it 3,300 profit target. It's a 3,300 profit target. All right. So that is significantly lower. Now, we have technically validated this by breaking the long setup. We've technically validated it by breaking the long setup. The ideal entry into this trend, and there's two different ways right now, assuming we continue this trend. One is just a full-on extension continuation, which is what we are in. The other is the full 50% retracement short. The full 50% retracement short from the overnight high to low would be the most ideal entry for me. That is a 34.05. However, in the overnight session, we have an extension from 34.31 to low that traded here, it traded here, and it traded here, and we just continue to just basically go straight down inside of these extensions that are being aggressively front run. I am just not gonna draw up that series though, because it's to me it's too aggressive going into the open. But right now this 34.31 has had a reaction at its 38% retracements in a front run every time it's traded, that's why I really just don't like it. So right now this 34.05 is all I'm gonna look for at this point in time. And I want to just mark up where this low is here on Friday. All right, that is what I have for the S&P 500. So the only thing I'm looking for is this 34.05 as far as an entry, halfway back from the open, and on the higher time frame downside targets 32.9975. Moving on to the Dow. Once again, just backing out to this higher time frame. Now the Dow's extension was a little different on this daily time frame. The Dow had an extension from 21,374 to high. The completion of the Dow target is actually what created, or right around created the sell-off. So it was more of a double top situation on the daily chart. You can look back to those highs in February of 2020, but also the upside target was right around 29,100. Our highs are 29,180. We never ever closed a daily chart above that level. So we could come all the way back down into that same anchor new high. And the 50% retracement wouldn't come into play until 25,277 if we're going to have that big of a sell-off. And then just like the S&P, I do want to be aware of where the halfway back is for the September contract. And that halfway back for the September contract is 26,795. Now, the other thing that really just makes the Dow the more technical market here is the Dow had a full 50% retracement short. From the high of Thursday to the low of Friday, we traded a halfway back short. A very clean halfway back short with a very good reaction. Now, it was front run by 8 ticks, but when your profit target, in this case, we have 28,412 and its downside target is about 1,200 points, an 8-tick front run is pretty normal. The overnight high now to the most recent low, same thing as the S&P 500, would be at 28,094. 28,094 would be that full 50% retracement short for the Dow. Downside targets from the halfway back short, 27,280. Moving on to the NASDAQ. Now, the NASDAQ was the leader the whole way up. And what's kind of amazing is how big this profit target that was completed in the NASDAQ, how quickly it completed. We basically had the lows of 2016 to the high of 2020 pull halfway back during the crash, and we completed targets. We went through targets. We have a weekly extension. That is from the high of 2000, and this is the most interesting level for me here. The high of 2020 to high, that 50% retracement right now has been front run. It's been front run, and that is an 11,114. Opposing that is a similar extension short to the S&P 500. You have what is 12,254 to low. Now this extension traded multiple times on Thursday. It traded its 38% retracement to the tick going into the Friday open, completed its negative 61 on the low, and that same anchor new low traded at the close. So we rallied from a profit target into a same anchor new low. We reacted off the 38. So you can see how technical the Dow is here. And that the NASDAQ. That NASDAQ's downside target is 10,883. So if we get down to that target, and you can see I have that green highlight there, we will be running into a daily swing mark. A daily swing mark low. That's that purple dash line. Anytime I have a purple dash line, it is a daily swing mark low. If it's orange, it's a daily swing mark high. And if it's dashed or dotted white, it's a leg start. So we will be running into a previous daily swing low and a profit target below 10,900. So I don't see any real exhaustion level unless we get to that. So keep that in mind as we go into the week. Now, just like the other markets, because we have broken completely down and through the full halfway back long. See, if we hold this, the full 50% retracement short, and I would even say in the NQ, because you could argue that the halfway back short from what is Friday's high to the overnight low has held to target. I would even argue that the 50%, and this is the most aggressive draw out of the indexes thus far, the halfway back short from today's high or last night's high to low, which is an 11,366, is a valid 50% retracement short for the NASDAQ on a first test. Moving on to oil. Now, oil is really interesting here. I just threw this laser setup in the chat, but we have an extension from 26.74 to high. The high is a completion of the target. The high is an absolute completion of the target. So the same anchor new high is a 35.76 at its 50% retracement. 35.76. We are in a very clean extension short series here. We are in extension to extension. Extension short to extension short. We had Thursday's low to the overnight low to the Sunday night open. And I'm taking that to the same anchor. Do break above that 50% retracement at 38.59 would line up with, you see these dotted purple lines. These are previous daily lows. Previous swing lows. There's two of them. This also is the low of Sunday night. And it's a 50% for a new entry, 38.59 in CL. This extension to extension at 37.75 has already traded. The 37.75 has already traded. So at this point, it'd be a second test. Moving on to USDJPY, we have this higher time frame, 50% retracement short from what is the June high to the July low. The halfway back was at 107.01. We've been going sideways inside of that. We had 6 days up. This is our first day down after 6 days. I do want to watch where this full halfway back long is. Or the USDJPY is not near as exciting with its volatility, but because we've broken down here, it's a front run of 2 pips. I do want to watch the 50% short of the week, which is a 106.14 of Monday for a potential trade setup. Moving on to the Aussie dollar, which if we break this extension, this could be a complete and utter trend reversal for the Aussie dollar. Basically we had a wedge flag breakout and then we failed back below. This extension is in a second test and under pressure. If the Aussie dollar really starts losing these lows, let's identify. See, we had a 50% retracement short here, and then we had our next measured move. I want to see where the full halfway back short is. The full halfway back short, you would just really have to argue, was aggressively front run by 10 pips. If we can get a halfway back short for the day at the 72.68, that is what I'm going to look for an entry through the lows and down to the 71.75, 72.68 for the dollar. And then for the euro, we're 38% of the extension. I will trade the 50, which lines up with a low. That's a 117, a 117.16, 117.16 for the euro USD. The pound is broken through its extensions, which means we're most likely going to head all the way down to the last traditional that traded. And really, you have to go quite a bit of ways out to the higher time frame. And it's just this swing low from June 29th to high. We are right near the bottom of this range, but boy, if we get through this, there's some aggressive selling here. Let me identify this sequence. Halfway back. Did this never traded? Wow, I was aggressively front run. Follow it for the week. Right now, if we just stay below 130, 139, the lows, this is the current extension play. We're bearish below 130.94. And if we break above 130.94, I would just look for that full 50% retracement short at the 132.51s. The USDCAD, also a little bit of a bottoming formation here. Now, we had a massive halfway back short complete. We have the swing high from June to low on the higher time frame as our next resistance level. And that's all the way up at 133.55s. 133.55s. Gold is still inside of this big daily extension, but we are in a counter trend short, and right now the lower time frame is bearish below a 1939.7. The 50% retracement short from Friday's high to low is very valid, and you can even argue that the halfway back short for the day is getting sold into, but we are bearish in gold. 1934 half is a 50% retracement short I am looking for. And then silver is on a full test of its halfway back long. Now, we initially had the 50% retracement long trade, and then we rolled futures contracts. Well, oftentimes when you trade and roll futures contracts, you do get retests of the original support level, but that's what we're trading here. So I don't have any resistance until the full 50% retracement short above us. If I can see us break above the 50% retracement short for the day, back up above 27, I'll look for a pullback to go long into 27.84. All right. But yep, that is going to wrap up the morning trade plan. There's a lot to talk about still. I will cover in the Startup Trading Trading Room, answer all you guys' questions. I'm sure you guys have a bunch. Since I was gone last week, of course, I go on vacation and the market has its biggest move. I was in middle Montana with no internet. So I mean, I guess really as a trader, if you want to go on vacation, you can't have internet, because I definitely would have just ran into a computer if I had one. But everybody trade safe. Have a great day. Let's kick this market's rear end and make sure to be patient for some of these higher time frame levels. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the room.